No, no, I've never been there. Never been there. Just okay. Let's talk about the hydromatic air screw, hydromatic propeller that matches the version that we have across the street. Not necessarily the one on the wall with the mule, but the mock-up that we have, the one that I will test you on, the one that will be applicable to any tests that I have for you. So, 3 forces control the propeller. Guess what those 3 forces are? And if you can't guess, you can just read up here. O is going to have CTF, right? Which tend to move the blades towards low pitch. All right, by the way, this is a full feathering, non-counterweighted propeller. It's the exception to most of the rules. They're big props too, by the way. Even the small one, they come in all different sizes. Even the small ones are very big. All right, so we have centrifugal twisting, which tend to move the blade towards low pitch. That's all old news. Engine oil under pressure is applied by the engine oil pump, which supplements the centrifugal twisting force, which was what they call it centrifugal twisting moment, but which is what I started the whole thing off with. So we've got the centrifugal twisting and engine oil pressure. That's the low pressure, and that'd be yellow on this one, if I'm not mistaken, yellow. And then 3, and then we have the governor pressure, 3, which will drive it towards high pitch, towards feather. And so if we can remember that feather is up here towards the front of the dome, and how to remember this, we're going to do quite well here, because that's what you want to know is behind the piston, governor pressure, pushing towards feather. So what do we need right now? What is just absolutely striking you is, wait a minute, this is wrong. All of the other ones had counterweights. And what happened if you lose oil pressure in this prop over here? Feathers. What do I need to feather this one?
Oil pressure.
Oil pressure. You got to have oil pressure to feather it. All right, which is going to create a whole bunch of fun. All right, so if we just look at this, it's going to be basically what we just said, but just in a different version here. So underspeed. So if it's underspeed, what do we got to do to this thing? Speed it up, which means lower the pitch, flatten it out. So, all right, we have a governor over here. The governor is exactly the same thing that you've been looking at. This is going to be a single acting governor, not a double. So it's either going to add oil, drain oil. The one we looked at just a little bit ago before the break was double acting. Add governor pressure this way or add governor pressure that way. Now we're just looking at a single acting. Add governor pressure or drain governor pressure. So, all right, we'll just see what we see here. So, all right, so engine oil is going to come up through here, go through the governor. We're going to boost this up. It's in an underspeed condition, so it's like that. Drop the pilot valve down. Pilot valve is dropped down. So it's going to drain oil because we got to flatten it out, right? Centrifugal twisting force. So we got to drain oil. So oil, high pressure oil from back here is in fact going to go through this valve assembly right here, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It's going to come up through here and drain out into the engine oil. Meanwhile, we just have engine oil pressure up here that's going to assist pushing it back. So instead of a spring or air pressure, we just always have this oil pressure up here. That's pretty easy to figure out, right? No? Yes? Okay. All right. Overspeed condition. We're overspeeds. We have to do what to the pitch? We got to slow it down. We have to increase pitch, which means we're going to, it's backwards from me, so you got to send it this way, right? Okay, so overspeed, flyweights, boom, they go up. Can you guys see that okay? I mean, is it better if I do this? I feel like it's better to see the big picture. All right, lift up the pilot valve. We have governor oil pressure, boost the pressure up. It's going to go through the passageways, just like the one across the street. It's going to come out through here. We are going to send oil through this right here, up and fill this back here. This is engine oil pressure right here. It's always engine oil pressure. It's just going to lose the battle. And so it's going to force it out this way simply because the red pressure is so much higher. That's all that is. And so underspeed, overspeed. And do I have an on speed? Yes, I do. So on speed. So what do we do for on speed? We're just going to block the governor. Yeah, we still have engine oil pressure coming up through here. but it can't do anything because technically back here we have a hydraulic lock. So yeah, the engine oil pressure is going to be pushing, but we've locked this down, hydraulic lock this area. It doesn't have enough force to overcome a hydraulic lock. Really nothing does.
So nothing's moving or going.
Nothing's moving.
Right.
So
Nothing.
you get pressure relief on this side or engine pressure?
No, because it's locked. It's not
No,
moving.
it's open to engine oil pressure. So engine oil pressure, it's just running up in here, 85 psi. Can't move it back.
Yeah, wouldn't pressure build up if you keep on pumping oil?
Well, this is the engine pump over here.
Yeah.
So it's going to the bearings and the accessories, and it just, there's a pressure relief valve in that system, so it's just doing its thing. So that's all there is to it, really. Nothing big about this. Yet. It's not that big a deal. So underspeed, we have to.
Increase, flatten out.
We're going too slow. We got to flatten it out. So what do? Drain oil from the governor. Let centrifugal twisting force and engine oil pressure bring it to a low pitch. We go over speed. We have to increase the pitch. So we just realign the pilot valve, lift the pilot valve up, send oil to the front. That's inboard, back here. And we're going to push it
Push it out.
out over speed. Push it out. Increase the pitch. On speed,
Valve stops flow.
lock it down, hold it there.
Stays constant. That's a full setting now.
All right, we good with that? I mean, that's very simple. It's just different, simple. Now, where it gets goofy is the feathering mechanism. So to feather this, and I'll just tell you how it works, there is a large button on the instrument panel, and these are older planes, and it says feather. And you push the button in, and it stays. So I think I have a drawing.
Q&A has a question on that.
Oh, there we go. That's what I want right there. There we go. So we have a button right there, feathering button. See, you don't push it down. He kept saying push it down and made fun of him. We have a feathering button with a holding coil. It says holding coil. So what happens is you push the button in, and the way this, I won't get into electricity, so don't worry about it. But what happens is when you push that in, it closes a contact, which creates a magnetic force right there that holds the button in. Can't pull it out. Just pink. I guess if you grabbed it and pulled it, you could stop it, but that would make sense. But anyway, so you push it in, the magnet attaches and holds the button in. When that button is pushed in, you know what a solenoid is, so I don't want to get into that. It starts an electric motor, not attached to the, see, the engine's way up here and the governor's way up here, and this motor, it's back there. I want to say I toured like a B-17 or something, and it was like in the back. It was something weird. I don't know what I'm talking about. Google probably has much better information than I do. So, anyway, so it starts this oil pump. This oil pump is got its own oil tank. Well, I don't think it's got its own oil tank. It's got a standpipe. So remember what a standpipe is. If you have an oil tank, we would do like this. We would say, this is two engine. And this right here is to the feather pump. So if we had a catastrophic engine failure and it sucked all the oil out, it would suck it to this level right here, leaving just enough oil, or enough oil I should say, to run the feathering pump. So you have a, now what happens if, you know, flak hits this and rips a hole through the oil tank? Well, that's a whole nother thing, so I can't help you with that. But yeah, well, this is the kind of plane that would be in too. So all right, so we push in the button goes in and locks in, starts the pump. Pump sucks oil from the oil tank. There's always going to be enough oil because it's a standpipe. It is going to push that oil up through towards the mechanism that we're going to look at. There is this doesn't have it. There's a pressure sensor. Oh, there it is. A pressure sensor. And when this reaches a certain level, which is 600, 650, 650 psi, it's going to open up and pop this button out. All right, let's back up a little bit though. Push in the button, button holds. Notice you have to have a battery. That's a Duracell. And starts the pump. Pump runs. It's going to pump the high pressure up to 650 psi through the governor. It is going to, right there, bring up the oil through here, around, through the valve that we were looking at before. This is the same thing. We just had high oil pressure right here. All this green used to be red. It's the same thing, right? Before it was red, now it's just green, which just means it's coming off the electric pump. And everything is lined up just like it was before. No big deal. Just going to come in here, and it's going to fill this up with that high oil pressure and just keep on moving it. Now we don't have a governor in play on this. It's just going to keep going and going and going until this piston gets all the way up to the front. And at that point, it is feathered out. It's in feather. And when this dome comes up and stops, then this green is going to start building up pressure because the pump's got a pump, and the pump's going to keep running until it gets to 600, 650 psi. I think the book says 650. Gets up to 600 psi, which really ensures that it's very far forward. And then it's going to hit that pressure switch. That pressure switch will open, which will then kill the power to that holding coil, which the button pops out. So one of the guys I worked for, my boss, really cool guy, he had a twin beach. If you don't know what a twin beach, it looks a lot like the Lockheed Electra that what's her name? Amelia Earhart flew around the world. They're very hard I can't tell the difference between them. But it's a really cool twin engine aircraft with 985s on it. You know, you tail wheel, you go in the back door, and they're always polished out and stuff. Looks like a smaller DC-3. So I remember him telling the story about he bought one of these things, and he went up with a CFI who was used to this kind of airplane, and they went up, and he's flying it around, getting checked out, and he's like, well, I guess we should maybe feather an engine or something and see, how this flies, and little exercise with that, right? And so they reach over, and this big thing says feather. So they hit the button goes in, button stays in, starts the pump in the back. Pump in the back, a high pressure oil, goes through the back right here, starts moving the dome forward, blades come up, go into feather, shut the engine down. There we are. Flew around, checked it out. Now we got a problem. There's no unfeather button. And they had no idea what to do. So they declared an emergency and came in on one engine.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So there is no unfeather button. There's a feather button. So you take the feather button, and if you push it in, the pump will start running and get to 650 psi like that and do what? Shut it back out. So what you do is you take the feather button and you push it in and you hold it. And the pump starts running. And it gets to 650 psi, and it keeps running. And then it gets to 750 psi, and there's this big old spring down here, right there, and the pressure comes through here, acts on that spring, and shifts it. It realigns this valve down here. And so where this high pressure used to be going back here, now the high pressure, which is colored light blue, is going to go to this side. So it made this realign at 750 psi because of that spring right there. It's a pilot valve in there. Moved over, caused the high pressure to go to the now outboard side, or this side right here, and it starts driving it back under 750 psi. Well, it doesn't need that much at this point, and you just hold the button in till the blades start to move, and then they start to windmill, and then you let go of the button pops out, engine starts rolling, the governor starts working, this realigns back to where it was because you lost the pressure, and everything works like normal.
So they just needed to hold it in.
Just hold it in.
Okay.
I remember that story because he's like, and there's no unfeather button. I said, well, you just hold in the feather button. And then he got mad at me for ruining his story. So I'm sorry. And I think he was also mad that I knew it like that much. And I was just some kid who'd never even been in one of these airplanes, but I just remembered the class. So sorry. So that's all there is to that. Yeah. All right. Let's watch a cool video.
Where would you find them?
Those engines,
Yeah.
these props. Like I said, the Twin Beach had it.
Aircraft salvage yards.